Welcome to the DSO Hygienist Podcast. This podcast is for everyone in the DSO space. Whether you're a hygienist, dentist, assistant, or leader, we're here to bring you expert insights, real-world strategies, and conversations to help you thrive. I'm your host, Christine Deal, and together we'll explore how to elevate patient care, grow professionally, and navigate the ever-evolving world of DSOs. Let's get started. Dr. Alan J. Acierno is the founder of DecisionOne Dental Partners and currently Chief Dental Officer at SmileBrands. After receiving his D.D.S. from Creighton University, he practiced dentistry in both group and private environments, where he discovered the benefits and challenges of each practice. Compelled with a vision to make a difference in the way dentistry is practiced, Dr. AJ, together with his brother and fellow dentist, Dr. Michael Acierno, founded DecisionOne Dental Partners in 2011. In 2019, DecisionOne partnered with SmileBrands to continue their mission of changing the way dentistry is done to improve lives with the backing of the best-in-class partner. In 2021, Dr. Acierno stepped into his role as one of the COOs within SmileBrands, overseeing the Midwest division. In 2024, Dr. Acierno took the role of Chief Dental Officer of SmileBrands. In his free time, Dr. Acierno enjoys spending time with his family, watching his kids play sports, staying active, and traveling. As professionals, we know your mouth is the gateway to your overall health. What happens there doesn't stay there. That's where SmileSip comes in, a powder you simply mix in water. Packed with antioxidants, it helps prevent stains, keeps your teeth white, neutralizes acid, and supports cavity protection. All in one sip. One habit covering the basics of your smile and your health. Use code the DSO Hygienist for a buy one, get one free offer through August 31st. Hi, I would like to welcome Dr. AJ to the DSO Hygienist Podcast today. Welcome, Dr. AJ.
Glad to be here. Very nice.
I am so excited to have you. I do have to add a disclaimer. Dr. AJ is my boss. So may throw him a few softball questions.
I don't know if I'm really your boss. Come on. There's
But usually what we do here is we just get into the questions. I'm a little ADD and I wanted to, let's get the information out that everybody wants to hear.
Let's do it.
What first drew you to dentistry?
You know, I always love the fact that, physicians and in the medical field, like they had a relationship with a family. They were in the community. They were making a difference. They were making a difference in somebody's health, making a difference in the community. I love the fact that, like my physician people that I knew growing up, they knew not only myself, but they knew my parents, they knew my grandparents, and everybody else. So that really is what drew me to the medical field. What I didn't know I had, my dad was a CPA, my mom was a school teacher. So what I didn't know is that I really had a passion for the business of it, and I had a passion for teaching it. So those two things I didn't know until later on in my life. What drew me really early on was, just the community aspect and being able to have a practice where multiple generations are in there and they knew you and respected you.
What made you decide to start a group practice instead of starting a solo practice?
Really great question. So when I first came out of school, I joined Heartland Dental. So I was with Heartland for a few years, and during that time with Heartland, listen, my brother graduated before me. He's a dentist, and he graduated before me, and he took over our practice that we went to as kids. So I didn't really have a place to go, so I had to join a group. I didn't know anything about groups. I just knew that I needed a job and I needed to start making money, and I needed to get into my field. So I went to Peoria, Illinois, and started working with them. And then I started to learn, wait, my brother's in private practice. I'm in group. What are the benefits of private? What are the benefits of group? What was I learning about? They were teaching me all about the business aspect of it and other things. And I was very grateful for that. And then I became I had a relationship with Dr. Workman and Pat Bauer and others that came from the Heartland world. Um, and I really was like, wait a second, there's something to this. Not just something to it as, oh, there's a money making thing and all that stuff, but there's something to this to really help patients get better. There's something of a community of dentists, being in that type of community, having the business aspect being done by others that are very well versed in that. Remember, my dad's a CPA, so I learned that really quickly. Like, man, I need people like that around me because that's not my field. I'm not a jack of all trades. I knew dentistry really well, but I didn't know all that other stuff. So when I when I moved to private practice, and then I was in private practice for 8 years, I was like, always kept knocking on the door of like, hey, you should really figure out this DSO thing. Hey, you got to figure out this DSO thing. Hey, you got to get involved in this, because I knew that was where the future was leading. I knew that's where dentistry was going. It was just it was solving a lot of problems that we in private practice had. That doesn't mean I don't like private practice. Love private practice. Encourage a lot of my friends like, hey man, stay in private practice. You're good to go. It's just a great avenue for a lot of us dentists that don't want to deal with a lot of these business aspects.
Yeah. And I have to say, I love the community that we have at Decision One with the hygienists. I mean, I know so
Yeah.
many hygienists from different practices, and that's great to have that community. I love that.
Yeah. I would say this, Christine. I one of the problems in dentistry that I always had, to be honest with you, early on when I first got into dentistry, was that we work within four walls. Okay. And what I mean by that is this, that if you took anybody, any field, and you said you're not going to work with any of your colleagues on the outside, you're just going to work on your four walls on the inside. And the work that you do is only really going to be judged by you. Okay. And the only time you know if you really screw that up, if you're in that environment, the only time you know if you screw up is when a lawyer walks through your door and says, "Hey, listen, you're getting sued, and we need to see your records," right? And then somebody on the stand tells you, "Hey, you're really a terrible dentist." You really don't know. You make excuses for, "Oh, this crown didn't work because of this. Oh, this composite didn't work because of this. Oh, I misdiagnosed this because it must have been my hygienist's fault," right? You start to make excuses because you're in this four walls. And when you're in a group, a lot of people like rag on a group because they're like, oh, because your four walls are down and you're exposed, right? I think that elevates the standard of care so much. I don't think any dentist should be afraid of that, right? It's the practice of medicine, the practice of dentistry. We're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be aspects that we're always growing. But if you don't understand your failures and you don't look at your failures, you're never going to continue to grow. So I think finding failures and seeing failures and learning from that is such a benefit to being part of a group. I think it has bettered healthcare. I really do. I've seen it in medicine, I've seen it in dentistry, that we have bettered patient care because of that aspect. And I'm really proud of that.
So, speaking of failures, what was your hardest moment that you faced in your career?
I'll tell you what, as a dentist, so there's probably two aspects, right? As a dentist and maybe as a group, right? Um, as a dentist, my hardest was when I bought my private practice. Pasta. Pasta was my employee number one, right? She was my first office manager of my private practice and the private practice that I bought. And then I had Peggy as a hygienist, and it was one day, I just remember it was in the hallway, and they both approached me, and I was kind of like, and this is like kind of 4 months into it, and you think like, hey, I'm the owner, so everybody has to like respect like what you say, right? Like you learn that real quick that that's not the case. But they came up to me and they were like, hey, listen, we got to tell you something. You're really not great at treatment presentation, and I don't think patients are really accepting your treatment. And I was like, like in my head, the first reaction is defensive, and the first reaction is, wait a second, I'm the boss, and all that stuff. And I really at that moment had to make a decision. I was like, and these people have been around for a while. They know their patient base. They know what's going on. I have to be successful in here. I mean, I took out, I remember a $530,000 loan. So if I don't make this work, I got a real problem on my hands, right? So I had to like eat crow and look at them and go, okay, what am I doing wrong? And if I did not have that conversation there, I don't know where my career would have been. And so that was probably one of the most difficult moments in my career, from a dental aspect, but probably one of the most beneficial of my career. Um, uh, in the DSO space, having a support center that supports your teams is an everlasting like issue, because in private practice, it is kind of crazy. Like in private practice, you call the IT guy, right? And you say, hey, I need I got to have my computer. It's a problem. Yeah, I'll get there in 2 days. Okay, no problem. Okay. Because they made the phone call, because they heard the other person say, I'm going to fix the computer, that makes everybody go, okay, it's going to be fixed, right? In the DSO space, it's like you're calling somebody that's like, no problem, I'm going to do this for you. So there's no like confirmation, or there's no closure to this is getting fixed. You're relying on somebody else. Therefore, your window to fix it becomes very short, because it could be the same 2 days, but a 2 days under that rule is like, I hate this place. They're not servicing me. I don't know what's going on, whatever, because they're not the ones making that end step. But again, if you're going to be a DSO and you're going to consolidate that, and you're going to create a cost efficiency on that, and you're going to create a consistency in there, you do need it all to go to one place and then be able to grab what you need to, or get who you need to fix it. So that has been a problem in the DSO space. Something that I've always dealt with, and I will continue to deal with it. I dealt with it when I had only 2 practices, 3 practices, right? Pasta and me were the only ones getting these phone calls, and people would be like, hey, you didn't get to this fast enough. We were like, it was an hour ago. Like, what was your expectation? Like, was it 5 minutes, 3 minutes? What was it? So it is something that we're always trying to work on, because that is our customer. Our customer is the offices. We have to better that response time and all those things. But I think it is also to an expectation. Like, you got to set the expectations, like, if you're going to work for a group, here's the expectations of response time. It's no different than private practice. The only difference is that you on the phone got the person to commit, as opposed to you're relying on somebody to get that commitment from the person that's going to fix it.
Well, kudos to you for taking feedback.
I
I mean,
it,
honestly, I think that that's so missing in some offices, like that the ego is here, and sometimes you need to come back and get that feedback and take it.
yeah. If I had any advice for any dental student whatsoever, right? Like, there's two things. One, you did not join healthcare first. You actually joined the customer service industry first. Healthcare second. The other piece of advice is, um, those around you that work with you have the most information that can help you. Absolutely, 100%. They're with you all the time. If you want to really know, like, if you're being a good leader or not, ask the team around you. If you really want to know, like, if your work is good, start asking the people around you, right? And that can help you grow really fast in your career.
Yeah, and be open to it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy, but it's definitely positive.
So, what matters most in running a single practice versus running a dental company?
Actually, I'd probably say it's the same thing. To be honest with you, I don't think there's a difference. I have always ridden by this, and I will always ride by this. I have a formula of people plus systems equals successful business. Right? You have to be people first oriented. You have to be patient centric and team member centric. So as a leader in your dental office, you got to make sure that your team members are happy. You got to make sure your patients are happy. You got to make sure you have a good team member experience, patient experience. How do you do that? You create great systems in your office and great systems in your company. What are systems? Systems are processes that you go by. You need consistency. Like we in dentistry, we're consistent. I love it. Like a lot of dentists are like, well, I really don't like processes. I like to do whatever I want to do, and this and that. And I'm like, that's completely against what we do in dentistry and medicine, right? The idea of great healthcare is consistency, right? Consistency and repeatable process makes the patient better, right? So we want that in systems, whether that's how do you charge somebody out, how do you do a phone call, whatever those are, the patient journey and the systems around there. And then equals a successful business, meaning your business is important. And I say, if you're not business focused, then you're not people first. I love everybody to be like, DSOs, they're only about business. And private practice isn't, because I will tell you what, every day a dentist wakes up. I don't care if you work for a group, if you work for the government, whoever you are, you're a dentist. You produce 80% of the revenue in any practice in the world, okay? Around 80%. Every day somebody relies on you for their paycheck. Every single day. Somebody for the rest of your career will rely on you to show up to work for their paycheck. Nobody's doing it for free. Okay. And patients rely on you to run a good business, because if you fail and you close, now they got to go find somebody else. And it's not like people just find somebody else right away. They wait, and then their treatment gets worse and blah, blah, blah. So the reality is, if you're not business focused, then you're not people first. So I walked through that formula, and I have walked through that formula in private practice, group practice, doesn't matter. Those are the things that are most important to me. Got to have great relationships. Got to have great people skills. Like all that stuff, I think is super important on that.
Yeah. So what's the number one lever for growing your practice?
Relationships. Like a lot of people say patient flow. I do believe it's patient flow. Like you need patient flow, but relationships drive patient flow. Somebody will say to me, no, it's marketing. I hope to never market. Like my goal in any practice is that like you start your affiliation with a practice on day one. I'm hoping 3 years later, I never have to put a dime into marketing, because really 80% of your new patients should come from internal referrals. The other 20% is maybe paid marketing, but we always flip it. Everybody always thinks like 80% of my patients should be paid marketing. No, it should not. Like I'm a big believer in get to a point where you don't have to market and you're successful. And Christine, we have a lot of practices like that, where it's just a patient experience and the overall team member experience is so great that they're getting 70, 90 new patients a month and they have no marketing, zero. It's just word of mouth on there. And that's when you really made it. Like, and somebody will ask me, what's success in dentistry? Somebody will be like, I do $3 million a year. I do $6 million a year. And like, well, I don't know, whatever it is. I don't know. Could be good, could be bad. I have no idea. Like if your revenue is 6 million and your profitability is blank, like, and all because you're spending a ton on marketing, that's probably not a successful dental practice. I think a successful dental practice is when you have patients that are referring their family and friends over and over again. You're spending no money in marketing and it's a great machine moving forward. Now you've done something really well,
Yeah. And, that's the number one thing I don't think people think about. Ask your patients.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it kind of crazy, right? Because the patient journey is all about like getting them in, getting a great service, diagnosing. Okay. Where like if you walk through these hurdles, getting them in the door is a hurdle. Once they're in the door, now creating a great experience is a hurdle. Diagnosing dental treatment is a hurdle. Like I always hear this, and I don't hear it as much anymore because I think everybody knows how just ridiculous this is like, oh, we're over treating a patient. Like once diagnostic AI came out, I think everybody was like, ooh, maybe we're really wrong on that. Like we have been under treating forever. Like there's an under treatment issue there's a presentation issue just because of the personality types that go into dentistry. We have a actual presentation issue. Then we have a financial presentation hurdle, and then we got to get the patient to actually get the yes and do the treatment. Just think about all those hurdles in dentistry. Like, you got to really focus in on the systems and do things right in order to make sure that I didn't get in this business to diagnose treatment. I got in this business to actually help people, right? And we sometimes forget that aspect, like, you want to get somebody to yes, you want to get them to actually get better. That's the key. It's not, the key isn't to diagnose somebody and let them go and figure it out.
Yeah. What do you think has changed the most in dentistry since you started?
Oh, technology, I mean, is for sure, and I think dentistry is a very intimate medical field. We're in somebody's mouth, we're in somebody's personal space. I don't think relationships will ever change. I don't care how good the technology gets. I really don't think so. I think we will always have a relationship-based business. But what has changed, so that's what's not changing. I don't think that's going to change. But what is changing is technology, right? The way I practiced dentistry 8 months ago, it's completely different, and it's changing very rapidly. I believe, and I've said this out loud, Christine, hundreds of times, and I will continue saying it from the hilltops. We are at the doorstep of the largest paradigm shift in dentistry ever, ever. And we're not going back. We're never going back. I don't think anybody is ever going to go back to, hey, remember that time that we had just our eyes, that we looked at an x-ray and we relied on ourselves to go ahead and diagnose the right treatment? Like, can you imagine if I was going in for a colonoscopy or my wife's mammogram or anything like that, that I was like, man, I hope it's just the doctor's eyes looking at this and they're not using diagnostic AI to assist them. And the key word there, assist them, right? Not to diagnose, assist them. We're never going backwards to that. Can you imagine that time when we're like, gosh, I really wish that we would go back to making crowns where we stack porcelain and we spin metal and we wax up and all that stuff with humans that can create air at any one of those steps. Man, I wish we would go back to that. Not happening. Like, the difference today than ever before is, before we used to help with problems. Technology used to help. Today, we're using technology to solve problems, okay? And when I went through those barriers of like getting a patient in, diagnosis, treatment presentation, financial presentation, we are now using technology to actually solve those issues, not just help those issues. And I think that is why there's a paradigm shift occurring. And like any paradigm shift, during the process of doing it, it's really messy, right? And people get scared because of that messiness, and I went through it with composite. We went from amalgam to composite. You remember, Christy, right? Like, and I'm old enough now where when I first got in there were still doctors using no gloves and still doctors smoking in an operatory, right? And when you go through that change, so when the people are on board with it, you're kind of like, they're looking at you going, you must be crazy, and sometimes you think to yourself, well, maybe I am the crazy one, but you have to know that people don't want to change, right? That's just the human nature, and that's okay, right? That's why it's messy right now, because people are pushing back on it, and this, like, one of the biggest things that I ever get is Curidont, and P11 fork peptides and that whole formula, and starting to work on some. I don't know. I know there will be a product of the future. They go, remember when we were using Curidont? Man, I can't believe we were using Curidont. This is a better product. But that product isn't here right now. But there is a product right now that can help us stop the progression of incipient decay. But we push back on it and we go, well, I don't know if it really works. I want to wait until, I see if my patients it works on my patients, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world because our patients go out into the wild and suck down 14 monster drinks. So is it really Curadont that didn't work, or is it the 14 monster drinks, right? It is just we push back on a lot of stuff because of change, and that's going to be a tough time for dentists and hygienists in this period of time. When I say this period of time, the next 3 years, because if you don't get on board with the future of dentistry right now, I think it's happening so rapidly, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, how do I get on board now? Like, there's so much that changed in dentistry. What do I do? And I hope not, but that's what we got to make sure that we're helping our patients with.
Yeah, I find that with fluoride when I talk to other hygienists that are resistant to it. And I'm like, you're a prevention specialist. Why would I not want to prevent people from having to redo their crowns and get fillings on their root surfaces and all that kind of stuff? It's just a no-brainer for me.
Oh, Christine, you're gonna make me get on my soapbox, right? Like there's it's like fluoride, cancer screening, X-rays. I mean, what we're I was very naive in this world. I will tell you this, okay? If you asked me, I'll ask myself a question like, what do you think one of your greatest accomplishments are, right? And mine is the standard of care. We created a standard of care guideline and a standard of care scorecard. Okay, so meaning that I, as a dentist, know my standard of care. Like, what are we doing to elevate the standard of care in dentistry and continue to elevate it? And then what's my scorecard? Am I actually doing this? And I was naive because I thought, man, if people saw that only 30% of adults, 36%, that's actually the number, of adults are only getting fluoride, that people would go, that's not right. Recession, grinding, medications, dry mouth, you name it. Of course, all the acidity we soak our teeth with all day long with coffee and everything. Of course, we will see that 36% isn't good. So we will go ahead and self-diagnose that we have an issue and we'll correct it. What has been kind of like the biggest heartburn or stomach ache for me is that we're not fixing it, right? Like we're making excuses of why it's 36%. Well, patients don't want to pay for it, Dr. Acierno, and this and that, and I don't know. That cancer light, when I put it in there, I get a lot of false positives, so I just don't want to use it. Can you imagine if the dermatologist that sticks a light on you, shuts the lights off, sticks a light on you, and says, "I'm just not going to use this because I just get a lot of false positives on it." It's really insane, right? Like it's when we say it out loud, you're kind of like, "Oh man, that's kind of crazy," right? But that is like the standard of care and holding ourselves to a level of how we take care of people. That's the four walls have come down. We need to do that.
Yeah, for sure. What does it take to succeed in this industry?
In dentistry, so I'll put it in the DSO space and in dentistry, right? In dentistry, what it takes to succeed is you have to form relationships. You really do. The team member and patient experience start with relationship building and start with really getting to know people, and understand people. I think that's a key to being a great leader as a dentist. In the DSO space, the key, if you asked me 6 months ago, I probably would have said something different. But today it is transforming the DSO to a DSO 2.0, to really changing the way that technology and other things are occurring, to be able to service our patients better and to service our customer, which is the offices, better. I think that's really what is needed.
What's the biggest concern for dentistry? What would make you walk away from it?
This is a true story. This is a true story. I was on the phone with doctors and team leaders last night. I don't know, 100 of them. And, there's always a concern when change is occurring, as I was saying, right? And I let them know. I said, listen, as change occurs, everybody has a right. It's the greatest thing about this world. Like, you have a right to either say, I'm going to jump on board with change or I'm not. And what's occurring in dentistry is change. And you, again, we're not going backwards. So it's either you jump on the change train or you find a different field. And really, it's a tough conversation to have, but that's really what you got to do, right? For me, it's not the change that would ever get me to leave dentistry. I think it's actually beautiful. I think I'm super excited about it. I'm more excited about the future of dentistry than I've ever have been in my life. I'm a big believer in the, Rome fell from within. I don't think all the headwinds of like everybody will say, like insurance companies and government and oh my gosh, equipment's getting more expensive and labor's getting more expensive and there's not enough hygienists and you go on and on. A lot of headwinds in dentistry, a lot, right? I don't think any of those are going to destroy dentistry. I think dentistry is going to get destroyed from within if it ever did. And what I mean by that is we as dentists and hygienists have to come to grips with we have to better patient care. Like our four walls are down. It is now we are exposed and we are held accountable to how we take care of people. And if we don't, that will get me to quit dentistry, right? Like I honestly, if I wake up and somebody's like, AJ, if you left dentistry today, why would it be? It's because of that. There's no doubt about it. And I would be a liar to tell you that I haven't thought about it, because as we come out with the standard of care and as we look at our doctors and see like somebody going, well, like making all the excuses and everything that we were just talking about, I go, is this right for me? Do you want to be a part of a field where a predominant amount of your colleagues are not accepting to the growth of the standard of care? And I'm talking about the basics. Like I'll have dentists come to me and go, yeah, but AJ, I place implants. Okay. You place implants and you have 2% perio in your practice. Like I'm nervous. I'm nervous about your practice, right? You place implants, but you don't do cancer screening. So what you're telling me is that you're willing to replace a missing tooth with a definitely a superior implant. However, you're willing to let the patient get stage 4 cancer. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So you're willing to, because once they go to stage 4 cancer, it's 50-50. 50% they live, 50% they don't. And I've always said this, Christine, one of the problems in dentistry is that we don't see people die. Our consequence of us and what we do, periodontal disease, we don't do it. Our consequence is we have to take some teeth out. We don't see the effect of the periodontal disease on the heart and the patient with a heart attack dying in the emergency room. We get the call from Susie that says, hey, Dr. Acierno, I'm really sorry to say this, but my mom died last week. She won't be coming to your practice anymore, of course, right? Like we get that call. I don't see them suffer from the consequence of me not diagnosing perio, me going ahead and not doing a cancer screening, me not taking an x-ray and finding a cyst or a tumor or whatever it is. That's on me, right? But I don't get to see people die because of that, right? And so I'm worried that we as dentists get the easy route. So we're okay with not elevating the standard of care. We're okay with the excuse of payers. My patient just doesn't want to pay. They don't have the time, blah, blah, blah. And we have to get better at that. We have to get better. If we don't get better at that, we're not going to better patient care. And man, that is just painful. Like I cannot be a part of that.
What do you think the future of dentistry, what's going to look different in the future, do you think?
Well, I have a feeling, I know this is not really that futuristic, but I really do have a feeling that the self-diagnosis of patients is really what's going to drive dentistry. Only 44% of Americans go to the dentist regularly. And it's 44, 50%, whatever it is. So let's say 40, I think it's on the lower end, to be honest with you. I think that's terrible. I mean, especially in America where you have a dentist and all over the place and you have access to care. Like, how does only 44% of Americans get to the dentist? Well, just like everything, people wear Aura rings and whoops and all this stuff, and they're monitoring their health, right? Right now, we have no monitorization of our dental. Okay, so I truly believe that we will have a scanning technique on our toothbrush. So as you brush your teeth, electric toothbrush, it scans your teeth and it tells you that you need to go to the dentist because there is something that's changing. Whether you have a recession, whether you have bleeding gums, whether you have a cavity or something like that. I really do believe that that's where we're approaching, to be able to get more access to care and to make sure that patients can self-diagnose themselves, okay? Because it's inherent in the human nature that we live in that they are not trusting, right? Oh my gosh, I went to the dentist. They told me I needed this stuff. They must need more money, so therefore I'm just not going to do it, right? That's where it's become such a change, because it was just 2 years ago that people were like, you're using AI? That stuff's terrible. Don't use that, right? And now people trust AI more than they do humans, or, so the reality is, I think that's where we need to move to, and the technology and the AI that's going to be used in dentistry is going to be solving a lot of these problems. We're using it now.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
It would be.
Yeah, that would be great. Somebody needs to do that right away.
I know some people are working on it.
What advice would you give a dental student right now who's in dental school?
Go work somewhere that is in the customer service industry, restaurant, a spa somewhere, and really learn customer service. I got lucky. I went kicking and screaming one summer because my mom worked for Disney stores, and she was like, AJ, you need to go work at the Disney store. I'm like, Mom, I'm not getting in polyester pants and doing all this stuff. And she's like, well, you're working somewhere, so guess what? I just found you a job. You're working. And it was the greatest job I ever had, because it set the tone for me I never thought I was going in the customer service industry. I really didn't, until probably my first year of dental. And I was like, oh, I got to make these people happy. I got to put on a show. And in dentist, in Disney, they would say, like, you're on stage, and that's really what it is. You're in dental. Like, you got a bad day at home, you're on stage. Like, you don't bring that to work, like, insurance is like piss you off and you're on the phone with them or something like that. You better get out there. You can't show that to patients. You're on stage, right? Like, it's all about the experience that the customer has, because they have a choice to spend money with you, just like they had a choice to spend money at Disney, right? But Disney was very good at understanding the customer and understanding the customer experience in order for them to want to spend money with them. And that's why I always say, like, I want people to want to work for me. I want people to want to come to me as a dentist. I don't want people to have to come to me, right? Sometimes I hear people be like, yeah, I'm in HMOs, I'm in all these PPOs and all this stuff. And man, I got enough patients coming in, AJ. It could be that you have a great patient experience, or it could be that you don't have a great patient experience and they have to come see you, and I never wanted that. I want them to want to come see me. I want them to have a great experience, that they want to go to the dentist. And so that was probably one of my biggest benefits. And I really encourage any dental student, hygienist, anybody to go do that.
Yeah, I waitressed all through college. That's a great customer service experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you can do that, you can deal with any people.
Right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Dr. AJ, for being on the show today. And if you want to get a hold of Dr. AJ, we will provide his contact information in the show notes. But thanks so much today, Dr. AJ, for spending some time with us at the DSO Hygienist podcast.
It's my pleasure. And Christine, for everybody to know this, Christine's great at a podcast. She's even better at being a hygienist. Like, we talk about relationships and we talk about standard of care and those type of things. You don't get to find too many people in this world that possess all that. So Christine, thank you. Thank you for all you do for dentistry. It is really making a difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the DSO Hygienist podcast. Please follow or subscribe to be alerted of new episodes.